beautiful.
I was just hoping to sort of like interview you, but not, I don't want to like interview you, like put you totally on the spot, you know,
Sure.
but just get to know you a little bit. I wanted to talk about comedy, especially just because I've been here for about 3 years trying to do comedy, and I feel like you've been in it a little bit longer than I have, and you've seen quite a bit deeper than I have.
I got like some shots, some like very early on shots, because my whole projection with comedy, my first set was on Kill Tony. For some reason, I decided that's where I wanted to do it.
The first time you ever did a set?
And it was during the pandemic. So, like, I was going to the Comedy Store. I never missed a Kill Tony. I was always there for years, since the Belly Room.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't doing comedy, but I was like, that could be fun. When the pandemic started, I dropped... I was doing art. Like, my entire life, I had been doing graphic design, tattooing, painting, things like that. But I was falling out of love with it, had just gone through a big breakup right at the beginning of the pandemic. So I was like, I'm going to start writing jokes. And when the pandemic happened, there was no audiences allowed at the Comedy Store. So Kill Tony was just, it was in the main room, and it was a 400-seat room with nobody in it. It was just them on stage.
Crazy.
The producer, and then the regulars, and like 4 or 5 people that were like bucket pools, right? Because they just pre-selected. And I was sitting in the parking lot. They would project it on the wall. You could sit in the parking lot and watch it live from the parking lot. So I was sitting out there.
That's so strange. Have like a big empty room,
dystopian.
But the audience is outside.
Yeah, it was really crazy.
I think that the audience energy is a big part of comedy. It's like that back and
50%.
forth. Yeah, that conversation is what it's all about.
Everybody learned that the hard way during the pandemic, because they were all trying to do like Zoom comedy shows.
Hated that. I hated that.
Timing is everything on comedy. There's a delay. There's no laughter. I refused to do any. Plus, I mean, I was just starting comedy, and I knew that wasn't the way that I wanted to do it.
Definitely not.
I needed to talk to people. So I did my first set on Kill Tony. And I went up to Tony after the show, and I was like, if you need a stagehand or like an intern or whatever, I would love to help out. I just lost my job because of the pandemic. I'm getting $4,000 a month from the government to not work. And he was like, yeah, I might take you up on that. And then the next week I had
famous last words.
I know. The next week I had a DM from Tony, and he was like, see you tonight? And I was like, fuck, yeah.
That's crazy.
Dude, my entire world went from just being like a fan to now I'm interning on my favorite podcast I've been watching for years, like as a fanboy. Like I've had conversations with Tony in the passing in the Comedy Store, but like from fan to him, it's like they're not necessarily the most impactful. I know he knows who I am, but I guarantee he didn't know my name. He probably didn't really know who I was at all, but
he definitely probably recognized you. You're a pretty recognizable guy, I would say.
He said, I remember him saying like, I always see you in the audience, and I'm like, yeah, I'm always there. So when he gave me that opportunity, I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking blow this. So I would show up early every Monday. I would communicate. Like Red Band's whole setup, I made sure to take pictures. I would draw it out so I knew like what went where.
Like you basically based it off of Red. Like, is that how you learned?
That was the first podcast that I've ever been a part of. I mean, I knew a little bit of technical stuff because I had tried to do like Twitch streaming and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I really learned everything from Red Band. I just took pictures of everything that he had, all the chords, all of the like mixers and components, and I just memorized them. I researched them, and I would draw them out so I knew how to set it up like the back of my hand. He did most of his setup, but for me, I had to set up like 4 of his cameras with the same angle every time, make sure that I was adjusting it back and forth. And it was
cheers, by the way.
Cheers. Hell yeah.
Thanks for coming by, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so and I got really, really lucky because the producer who was working Kill Tony before me, his name was David Deary.
Was that back in LA then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also produced Donnell Rawlings' podcast. And when Dave Chappelle started his like summer camp out in Ohio, they invited Donnell, and Donnell was like, well, I'm taking David with me. So David left, and I filled in his shoes as just the sole producer of the show, which that was within a month of me.
Yeah, so you're like, you weren't going to turn it down, obviously, but you're like, holy fuck, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
There were times where I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fuck this up. They'd be like, Zach, go get on the camera and zoom in on something. And I'm like, don't make me do this.
Yeah, you're just like worried that any moment you're going to ruin everything.
Yeah, I got really fortunate. There was so you know Jackass, right?
Yeah, I grew up watching that, man. That was one of my favorite shows.
You know Rick Cossack, the guy? Yeah, he was a huge Kill Tony fan. So
really?
He was one of the few people who were in the room.
You're talking about the filmer,
the guy
film
who
guy,
throws
right?
up.
Yeah, they always make him throw up.
Yeah, so he was there. He would be hanging out for most of the shows just because he was like one of those exceptions. We'll let him in.
Yeah.
Because, it'd be like Tony's closer friends or like somebody who worked at the store. There'd be people in there, but not a lot of them. Not in that big of a room.
For sure.
And I would go over to Rick. Like, there was a time when the camera just, like, the ISO went out of focus and it was all bright and blurry. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck do I do? What do I do? And he came over to the camera and he fixed it for me. And I was just thinking in this moment, I'm like, I just started producing a podcast and I'm getting helped by the guy who made Jackass popular. This is insane.
That is so, dude, that's so cool because I grew up watching Jackass. I feel like it influenced me a lot. Like every kid that watches Jackass, first idea when you're like 10 is like, well, you know what? I think that's what me and my friend should do.
Right, let's hurt ourselves. Yeah. It'll be
let's
funny.
film ourselves getting hurt. Like, it's so original. It's like not when you copy it.
Hey, dude, I still do it to this day. I'll hurt myself for funny. I've made a skit where I like did all my corniest jokes. It was just for video. Just all my worst dad jokes, basically, and I was on stage.
I think I saw that. Was it when you were like, they're like throwing milk at you and shit, dude?
Yeah. First it's tomatoes, and then it's pepper spray. So I get pepper sprayed in the face, and I'm like trying to remember all my jokes, and I'm like pouring milk on my face, and then they're throwing firecrackers at me, and the whole set catches on fire.
I saw that, man. That was genius. See, I really loved that.
You don't have to have great writing. You just have to hurt yourself on camera. People will love it.
Or at least just have a creative direction, Like that video could have been funny for so many different reasons. Like the jokes itself, but all else fails, it's like you're at least self-aware. You're like shitting on yourself. And
there was like a lot of the jokes where I do the setup, but the guy who edited the video didn't know the joke, so he would cut the setup before the punchline, and it would just be like, are there any veterans in the crowd today? And then the joke is gone.
Dude,
it's just me like crying.
I actually loved that. Like that, there was like a clip like that where it just cuts to something else. Like, dude, I don't know. I think it made it funny.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it worked. It was all it needed to be. I remember having that idea, and the fact that Gary let me fucking do that with his time and money. I'm like, that was great. Those were the good old days. It was like 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah, that's right. When I moved here about 3 years ago. So that was because I was in Chicago during COVID, and I had just started trying to start doing stand-up.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. So I was just like, oh, wow, I suck at this, but this is fun. And then couldn't perform anywhere. Like all the bars shut down.
Yeah.
And so that's why I moved here from Chicago. I feel like that's why a lot of LA comics moved here too.
Definitely. LA still honestly was kind of great for comedy during the pandemic. For the open micers, it was. You couldn't go into like clubs and do comedy, but a lot of the clubs that did open mics would do them on the sidewalk, which was crazy.
Oh, like just out front?
Yeah, there were mics in public parks and like baseball squares. Like I was doing like stand up anywhere I could, backyards. That was pretty cool. I did
that
comedy.
Actually sounds like pure, like that sounds like we're making it work for the sake of comedy.
Yeah, my favorite spot was actually like, it was a retail store that a guy was living in on like, I think it was on Fairfax, and he just had this space upstairs that could have just been for like, putting labels on packages or whatever. There are boxes everywhere, and it was called Vicky's Back Room or something. It was $10 to go up for 10 minutes, which in LA paying to go up is a thing that happens.
I've heard that in New York and LA. I've never really heard it anywhere else.
It's bullshit.
Yeah,
it's totally fucked up to do.
It's crazy, honestly.
Yeah. But I knew the guy who
the
was living
poorest
there.
people without jobs. They're like, you need to pay for a chance. You
Right,
know? Like, it's
right.
like-
To not perform in front of anybody who would want to see you. It's all comics that are just thinking about what they
they're
want to
just
do.
if it's funnier, they'll laugh less. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
they're like, I hate you because
Yeah.
that's funny. You know,
Right,
like
right.
I hate.
Or they're
performing for
writing it
comedians.
down for themselves.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
had-
They'll tweak one little joke and then they're like, it's mine now.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I get afraid of, man, because I'm not very good and I'm trying to get better, but I think I write really well. And so I'll take jokes to mics and it won't be funny yet, you know, but the idea is good. And
Yeah.
I feel like a seasoned comedian will just be able to see it and be like, oh, that's this joke. And then I'm like, fuck, dude,
It's
he got to it
definitely-
before me.
It's definitely a thing that happens. Like I had a joke that I was doing just on open mics. I wasn't even booked on any shows yet, but one of my jokes got taken, and the guy who took the joke put a tag on it that was hilarious. And I was like, fuck, you made
Yeah.
my joke funnier.
Yeah, because
Now
it's
I
like,
can't
how
use
can
it.
I argue with the guy? Well, they're like, yours isn't as funny though. It's
Yeah.
like, but I had the idea. Like,
But at the same time, though, you got to remember, like, comedy isn't about doing the same shit over and over again. You got to keep making new stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, if something gets stolen, write something better, right?
No, I agree.
Easier said than done, but and it's really frustrating too, because there are a lot of comics out there that are really pompous and really just dicks.
Yeah.
So it makes you want to hate people. That's the thing with comedy. You love people a lot and you hate people a lot.
I think it depends if you're struggling or not, because comedy aside, like, we're all doing this. I mean, 99% people do it because they want to get a career out of it one day.
Sure.
And that's how they want to make their living. So when you're not, when you like, you're struggling with money and rent and everything, all you have is your comedy. So I
Right.
think it forces you to kind of be a little bit like of a hater towards
Yeah.
other people. For me, I am totally a hater. Like I will be like, I fucking don't respect that person. You know what I mean? But it's like,
Same.
if like, I'll see somebody who no, like they bomb, nobody laughs, but I'm like, they have the right idea though. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I'm all for if you're creative or if you're trying or if you're unique and like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not about like, is the joke clever or whatever, because I think that anything can be funny as long as you write it to be.
Yeah.
So what you choose to try and make people laugh with matters to me. You know what I mean? Like, if
Absolutely.
somebody's cheap and easy, it's like, sure, that's really clever or good, and I can get why people like them. But for me, I'm like, that's lazy. Like, because it's an art at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, if you're trying to make Star Wars again, it's like, okay, yeah, it looked cool, but it's Star Wars, you know? It's like,
Yeah, you gotta work really hard. You gotta keep changing and keep growing. Otherwise, like, you'll stall out really quick.
And like you said, I'm the same way where I'm not like really that afraid of somebody stealing my shit, because I just write every day.
Yeah.
And the way I see it is, if I really do get to be really talented, I don't need to ever rely on a joke.
Right.
Like, I never need to go, oh, that's so funny, I'm glad I found one. Like, that'll always be fun. It's like, if you're really good and you're really passionate, you should be able to keep going no matter what. So
Yeah.
you should never be hung up on,
Right.
like, fuck, that was a good premise. Like, because that's what happens with all these open micers, is they do the same fucking joke for 5 years because somebody laughed at it 5 years ago.
Right, and
It's
that's sad though.
It
Because
is
it's like,
sad.
why did you start doing comedy? I thought it was
for
because
validation, for sure, for validation.
Sure,
You see it.
validation, but then, like, is it still validation if people are like, ugh?
No, I agree. Like, I don't mean I didn't start it for validation, but you can see who did, because I don't care if people laugh at my jokes. Obviously, I give a little bit of a shit. Like, I don't want to just like go up and make people hate me every time. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if I really think something's funny, it's either like I didn't do a good enough job translating it, or like they just wouldn't have thought it's funny.
Right.
Which it's like, either way, it's
Not
like,
for everybody.
I'm doing it for me. So if I bomb, I bomb. But if I bomb and I think I did a good job, I don't care. Like, I'm not like, fuck, they didn't laugh. But some people, you'll see them bomb and they'll like pull like one of their haymakers out because they're like, uh-oh, like they don't think I'm funny.
Yeah.
So now I have to go back to the same material I always do. So then they clap and laugh, and it's like, that's fine, I guess. But for me, it's not for validation. It's for, I just like, I respect it like an art. It sounds faggy.
No, that's
but
what it's
you know what I mean?
supposed to be.
Yeah,
because like all of the big comics look at it that way. In fact, the bigger comics will get really frustrated if they see that somebody is not trying harder. Because
Yeah.
then it's like you're just jerking off. Like,
Yeah.
nobody goes to the gym to look like they're working out.
Yeah, and
go
well,
to
and
the
that's
gym
the
to get
thing is
bigger.
when you have the microphone, we're all paying attention to you. So it's
Right.
kind of a shit thing to do, is to like use it for your ego.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because then it's disregarding everybody else.
Yeah,
who's coming there?
It's
to
just
see you.
feeding off of all their attention, and it's like, well, you're supposed to give them something to feed or eat off of. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's the problem with celebrities that become comedians.
yes, is they're gonna
Like
get
Jeremy
attention.
Piven.
Who's that? Oh, is that the old the musician?
No, he's been in a bunch of movies. He's good in movies. He's hilarious in movies. But
let me look him up. I guess I can do that.
He still tours, but he is in the comedy world amongst comedians. Like people talk shit about him all the time. And I mean, he was a nice guy when I met him. He came through Vulcan when I was working there. And
This guy?
yeah,
Jeremy Piven.
yeah.
I don't remember
Entourage.
who this is. Oh yeah, okay. I know who he is. You're saying that he's not funny?
Yeah, he's not respectful to comedians. He doesn't really respect it as an art, and
Oh, fuck him then.
I
dude.
think he doesn't pay his openers well or something. I never opened for him. I don't know, but I did work with him when he came through Vulcan. He's 58 years old. Holy shit.
Yeah, that picture is from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That picture makes it looks like Rogan
like
mixed
he's
with
in
Red
college.
Band. Doesn't kind of.
Yeah, he does.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, and he's a little arrogant, but it's fine. A lot of comedians are. Some of the best ones are arrogant, and you don't know.
Adam
until you meet
McKay's
him.
his brother-in-law.
No shit.
I didn't know that.
Well,
Yeah, that's and
that's probably the coolest thing about him.
I'm glad that you brought up the arrogance thing, because I think that it's okay to be a little arrogant, but it's like a situational thing. Like if you're like, when you meet somebody and you look them in the eye, I judge somebody off that. I don't judge somebody off of like if they were kind of a dick one day. Because
Right.
some of my best friends are assholes. And it's like, I'd
what
rather be
sucks?
friends with an asshole than a boring person.
You know who one of the nicest comedians that I chilled with was?
Who's that?
Fucking Brendan Schaub.
Dude, right? Like everybody hates him. Yeah, okay.
And
but
don't get me wrong.
I bet he's fun to hang out with.
I know people who hate him for like bigger reasons than I liked him.
Yeah.
Like people who had worked with him and been like, yeah, he's kind of a piece of shit.
Is he?
That's what they've said.
Okay.
But I
That's
remember
fair.
like before I did comedy, I saw him in a Starbucks in LA and I'm like, you're Brendan Schaub. And he's like, yeah, I am. And I'm like,
He's like, yeah, man.
he's like, yeah. He's talking through his tongue.
He's got no socks on, but capris probably.
And I was like, yeah, I always go to Kill Tony. I definitely have seen you a few times. And he's like, what are you doing tonight? You want to come in? I'll put you on the list. And I'm like, oh, I got things to do. But it was really cool that he said that.
Cool.
And then he came and did a bunch of shows at Vulcan when I was there. And he was chill with me. He never said anything weird. He was very polite.
Well, are you familiar with like why everybody hates him so much? Because I'm not super. I know I've heard about like the truck walk or whatever they call
Truck
it.
walk.
Like I think they have like a clever nickname for it. But
Yeah.
I've heard about that. I've heard a lot of like you can just watch the guy on a podcast and you see like, okay, yeah, he's kind of being an asshole right now. But at the end of the day, like these people are always on camera. And
Right.
he even like admits to having like brain damage, and you
And
know what I
it's
mean.
clear.
Like,
you
yeah,
look at him, you hear him talk. It's like,
So
this guy's been hit a few times.
and like obviously I get why trolls are gonna troll him on the internet, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's like you said. If I met the guy, like I would be like, yeah, he seems like a nice guy.
Right.
Why would I have such a big problem with him?
Right.
Because he's more successful than me. But that comes down to the fucking arrogance and
Yeah.
jealousy and. Like,
And-
when you're struggling, you will fucking eat or be eaten, So
And that's the thing too. Like if you hit a certain level of success, even though it's not cute, you deserve to be a little bit arrogant because you're demanding a certain level of respect that you deserve. And I think I learned that through Hinchcliffe, because I've seen him demand respect in places where I'm like, wow, this is kind of out of control, crazy. This is a lot for him, like to be doing this right now in front of people. And,
Yeah.
like I've seen him be like a complete diva.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody kind of knows that he's a diva, but what do you have like a specific example?
Yeah.
Or
I'm never gonna forget this story.
buckle up.
Yeah. So it was a Kill Tony during the pandemic at the Comedy Store. Everybody's getting ready. We're setting up the stage. Tony's sitting. Red Band's plugging in all his shit. Joelberg and Jeremiah. Joel's setting up his drums. Jeremiah's just not in character for anything yet. And Tony and Joel are talking about COVID rates in East LA. And Tony's like hammering down that like, yeah, amongst Hispanic groups, COVID rates are much higher. Why do you think that is? Like trying to make a...
Well, Joel's Hispanic, right?
Yeah. So they're going back and forth. And Jeremiah sees like a little bit of tension. I'm sitting there, I see a little bit of tension, but I'm minding my own business.
You kind of kick back a little.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna focus on setting up cameras right now. I'm not getting involved.
Yeah.
Like it's an honor for me.
I don't
want to
pick either side right now.
I mean, I knew my side. I'm like, yeah, let's not make this into a racist thing. But like,
yeah,
Tony wanted to not be, questioned, I guess. He's trying to get in the zone. Like, this is my show. I'm confident. At least this is how I'm interpreting it. He was trying to remain in control, which respect. I totally get that. And then Jeremiah was like, hey, can we not talk about politics before the show? I feel like it puts a bad energy out there. And Tony lost his fucking mind.
On sweet Jeremiah.
Yeah, he's like, how fucking dare you tell me how to act on my stage? He's like, you're lucky to fucking be here. Just screaming. And it's like his girlfriend was there. Her friends were there.
Like Tony's or
oh,
man.
All of the open micers that were waiting to get on
He's like trying to be an alpha, and he's like, you know what?
How fucking dare you? This is my show. And he's like, you see the spit coming out of his mouth. He's so mad. His face is beet red. And I'm like, holy shit.
You better not do that again.
My mind was fucking blown because I've never, like, I'd seen Tony be an asshole in the show, but it's like, yeah, he's doing it because it's funny.
Yeah.
And this time he's being an asshole, but he means it. And I'm like, oh, fuck, don't get on this guy's bad side.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, he's Tony Hinchliffe. The whole reason why we're all here. This is his show.
Yeah.
So maybe he's right a little bit,
I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I like with arrogance and respect. It's a fine line, but that's the thing is, if you have one human moment like that, I'm not going to judge him like, oh, fuck. Like Christian Bale gets recorded yelling at some guy. Yeah. It's like, because he's, at the highest level performing.
That was literally what it felt like.
And it's like, it doesn't make you a better or, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're worth more than another human, but it does mean that not everybody could do that. So you should demand a little bit of respect,
And if like Tony's story, he's had to fight for everything his entire life. And he ate shit all the way up. So I get it, man. Like, I get it. But at the same time, if I were in his position, knowing like how I handle things, I'm like, I would have a lot more grace than that. But I mean,
I'm sure that did happen more than once, but like, I'm sure it doesn't happen as often as it could. You know what I mean? Like, if you do a show every Monday to that, like, dude, before you came over, I was like, I'm like, shit, I'm recording a podcast with Zac Bogus.
No,
like,
dude.
I was like nervous. And so it's like, you kind of have to shape into like a superhuman to do what they do. Like every fucking night, they're like, I'm going to be the man on stage. Exactly. And I have to be. There's no like little tingle of like, well, what if you're not the man in the back of your head? You know what I mean? That'll make you crumble. Like,
you got to think you're the shit because if you don't, other people won't believe you.
One little chink in your armor.
Yeah.
You get it?
There's a few chinks in his armor, let's be real. There's a few. Hans Kim. I'm just kidding.
Dude. I feel like we talked about him last time. That's my thing, because like I have personal experience with the guy, and that's why I don't like him. But I don't like just bitching about him constantly because he's successful. I'm not, and it just seems like I'm. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be that guy who's just like, fuck him, man.
What they say is like never punch down, right?
Yeah. So and he punches down constantly.
He does.
And on like comedians who are like, dude, I work 5 days a week. Like, I haven't been up as much as I want to be. It is hard, and I'm not making excuses, but like, for somebody who's like struggling, and it's like, it's not even like he's punching down like, oh, he sucks at comedy. He doesn't even see me do comedy, so he has no idea. He's just like, I'm better than you because I have more money than you. And so it's like, you don't even know if I'm like, worth your time or not before you said I wasn't, which is why it's like, fuck you, dude. Like, who the fuck does that?
Well, Kill Tony is a meat grinder. Like, it literally, you go up there and there's like a 5% chance that you survive with your head, because like, if you go up there and you're not killing it, you're gonna eat it. Like, I got lucky when I did my set. There was no audience, and most of the time the conversation was happening on stage. Like, I answered very few questions, so I got lucky. But my set was so mid. It was awful. It was so bad. If you go up there and you are now a part of the show, you're a character on the show, you're not necessarily you as an individual. You're basically just a product of the show, however they want to display you.
Well, and that's like, I think I told you a little bit about it, but that's what happened to me last time. Was I had moved here and I was very new to comedy, like months in. And so I just went every Monday to sign up because my buddies were like, Kill Tony's the shit. You got to check it out. I was like, all right, if I want a chance, I got to go to Kill Tony. So you sign up every week, but nothing happens for like months.
Right.
And so the first time I got called up was like, holy shit. Like when it's like, I feel it like right now, like when they say like Garrett Wayne.
Yeah.
Garrett Wayne.
It's
and I was like,
surreal.
oh, fuck. And it's like, you can't go, uh-oh. You have to just shut off. And so I run out. And this was me like 2 months into comedy. And it was Alex Jones as the fucking guest.
Fuck yeah, dude.
So I was just like, I
Was
get
it
up
the
on
episode
stage.
with the feet where he smelled that girl's feet? Or
Yeah, I think so.
I was working that one.
No, I don't know if it was that one actually, because I think I was in the audience for that one.
Okay.
I don't know if that was the one I performed at. It was episode 523, I think. But so I'm like, holy shit, I've known Alex Jones for like years.
Right.
Like, and then holy shit, Tony Hinchliffe. And when you get on stage and then everybody gets quiet and they're like, all right, go. And you look over and it's like Alex Jones, Tony Hinchliffe, Ryan Redband, and they're all just like staring at you. And there's like a quiet room full of hundreds of people. Dude, it all hit me, but I was like, you just got to do it. And so I just said like whatever I could think of jokes that I kind of had. And, they weren't, definitely am not going to say they were great, but they weren't like the worst. And so they were kind of like, all right, that was fine. Like the crowd laughed a little, and the interviews where I fell apart, like they started asking me questions and I was like having like a full on panic attack in my head. And he's like, tell me something interesting about you, and I'm just like, fuck, I don't know. And then so he's like, oh, so you're boring. And then it's like, maybe, you know what I mean?
That's the mistake that everybody makes. Half of the thing is
I shouldn't have been so real. What happened is like, I'm just this fucking, I'm from a small town in Iowa pretty much. And like, I'm on stage and I'm like, all right, I'm through the comedy portion and it didn't go that bad. So now what's the worst that could happen? And they're like, just tell me every single thing about you. Like, he's like, what illegal thing have you done ever? And like, it's like, dude, why would I talk about that on a global podcast?
That's the thing, is they want you to divulge that sensitive information because that's where the cookie is.
Exactly. So I wasn't mad, but like, what I should have done was approached it as like, I'm performing right now.
Sure.
So I don't have to be Garrett,
Yeah.
like me as a human in day-to-day life. I can be Garrett Wayne.
Or you could be Bert Kreischer and just make up a story.
Yeah, dude, exactly. And I took it just, dude, it destroyed me. It was like, fuck. I went home with my tail between my legs. I felt like terrible. Like I went home and sat on my couch and I was like, I think I hate myself. Like it was like terrible, dude.
And that is what people don't understand about Kill Tony is like, if you go out there and you eat it, which most of them are, that's kind of soul crushing.
Oh, it's absolutely devastating. And the funniest part was like it like crushed me. And then the next week goes by and I was like, well, it takes like 3 months, so I might as well start signing up again. Next fucking Monday I got called up again, bro. So I'm only there as like a placeholder. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, no way that like odds of getting called up twice in a row. So I didn't even have any new material because like I'm so new, bro. I'm 2 months in and it was like my minute last time was like my only joke really, you know? And so the next time they called me up, I was just like, oh my God. And I'm walking up like, what am I even going to joke about? And so I had just wrote a joke over the weekend about, I was at like, I was catering weddings at the time. And so I was making a joke about how like, it's so funny at weddings, how the grandparents have to be there. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, they're old. It's hard for them to get around even, let alone like stand or even sit for a while, So like the whole joke was like about how they're so out of place, but like, God forbid they're not there because like they're old, It's like, you got to get a picture with grandma before she dies.
Yeah.
That was my punchline. And so the first 30 seconds, I'm just eating it. Like they're not laughing. And it's just like, I'm like, fuck, digging deeper. And so I'm like, oh no. So when I said like, everybody's got a picture of grandma before she dies, everybody started dying. And like the camera panned out and like Tony, all of them, it was on that episode, it was Kyle Dunnigan and Kurt Metzger.
Oh, I love
and they
those
were
two.
all laughing. And so I was like, It went from like the lowest feeling ever to like, oh my God, they like me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, fuck yeah, I got him. And then they like stopped laughing, and I realized like I just completely stopped focusing on my joke, and I have no idea what I need to say.
You got distracted.
So I completely forgot the rest. And it's the first time I've ever performed this joke. It's like brand new in my brain. And so like, I just was like, I think I repeated the same punchline again, and it actually like they laughed again. And Tony was he's so smart, man. He clocked it right away. Like he's like, did you mean to like, was that supposed to be the joke that you say it twice or something? You know what I mean? Or like, and I was like, no, dude, I just was because I think I said it again, and I like went like. Or like something stressed, like, nah, grandma's okay, guys. She's gonna be okay, or something. So like it worked, but it was, you know what I mean? Like he was like, yeah, what the fuck was up with that?
Hey, at least he was paying attention to your joke. Like the fact that he clocked that means that he was like listening to you, and he probably saw something that he remembers feeling. Like I know his first time doing comedy, he always talks about is like he went up there and he forgot his joke, and he's like I just forgot everything I was thinking about, and the people started laughing. Yeah. So like he knows that fucking thing.
I have heard him say that before, that the first time he performed, he practiced for months, and then as soon as he got on stage, he forgot everything. And it actually, I internalized it, because I was like, if that happens to him a lot, because it happens to me fucking almost every time.
Anytime I try to build on a joke, like add tags, I forget them every single time.
It's so funny that I want to be a comedian, because like I just can't do comedy.
Yet. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. But
there's so many comedians that can't do comedy. They don't stop trying.
Yeah, because like people think it all comes back to the ego. It's like people think if you want to be a comedian, it means you want people to like give you that attention and listen. It's like, I really enjoy making people laugh, and I have some things I want to say, but I wish I could remove the part where I have to be the one saying it. You know? Like, I almost wish I could just write sitcoms or something. You could.
I mean, there's tons of writers out there. People will pay you to write them jokes. Writers.
Yeah.
Or you could just like, I mean, I don't know. I never thought that I would want to be on stage either. I was always more socially pulled back until I started doing comedy. Something switched in my head. Now I'm like an attention whore.
I've done a little scrolling on your Instagram. I've seen some cool pictures. A lot of skin.
There's a few with a lot of skin. Yeah. It was like the first year that I was doing comedy. We did on Halloween, we did an outdoor show in a public park.
Yeah.
And my costume was Juggalo Gigolo, because I know if you're naked, people laugh.
Yeah.
So I went up on stage and I just got practically naked in front of everybody, and that was like the main joke. I did like 30 seconds of comedy, and I was just like turning around, showing my butt.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is good. This is good.
They like it.
Yeah, I'm like
I'm a piece of meat. Yeah.
I'm like, is this comedy? This feels good.
I mean, it's a form of comedy for sure. You know, I think that's the thing, is comedy is all about making yourself vulnerable enough to be able to be laughed at. Because you're supposed to be the joke, but you can also sprinkle in like little in-depth, like, oh wow, I never thought of that. But
also,
we are the joke.
Right.
You know, like people think that it's like, no, I'm not the joke. I'm too fucking smart and blah 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 to be the joke. It's like, you're a comedian. Your whole job is to be like ridiculous and make people laugh. You know,
like highlight your faults.
Yeah,
through a funny lens.
Bring us together by being like, oh my God, I do that too. I never told anybody that like weird secret I do, but this comedian just made me realize that everybody does that. And, you know,
I think I just thought like, if I go up there and I like embarrass myself at this level, then bombing is going to be easy afterwards, because I'm up on stage naked and I'm like so uncomfortable, but nothing's going to be more uncomfortable than that going forward.
Well, and that's a big part of comedy too, is people who can feel like that and not be afraid to get back up again. Yeah. Because like you said, that's the worst soul-crushing feeling to bomb. And if you can feel like that terrible, where you're like, I'm a worthless human after that. You know, you sit there and you feel it, and then you're like, but I'm going to try again. Yeah. It's like only certain people can do that. You know?
Like, I have enough trauma in my life. There's no reason why I couldn't make things funny now. Yeah. I feel like I'm the person who's supposed to do that.
Yeah, because people will say, like, they'll see you do comedy, or they'll see me, I don't mean you, but, like, they'll see me do comedy, and they'll be like, their only comment after I, like, bomb, they'll be like, I could never do that, or something, you know what I mean? And it's like,
but it also,
basically like, being like, you looked like an idiot.
Or that's what it could mean, or it could mean, like, oh, that takes a lot of balls to do that.
Yeah,
because
they imagine themselves doing it, and, because I've always thought, like, you know, say like if you have high hopes, like let me just give a crazy example. Like I want to be the fucking president. You know, somebody would hear that and they would be like, oh, well, the president, like I don't think I could be the president. So if he's saying he could do it and I don't think I could, is he saying he's better than me, that he thinks he could be that? So that's where that hater mentality comes in, where they're like, what, you fucking think that
you think you're
you
hot
could
shit?
do that? Because like I don't think I could. So that does that mean that like, you know, you're more capable than I am? And it's like, I'm not saying I am, but like I'm saying I'm gonna try.
But I'm trying.
Why are you mad about me? Yeah, I'll take some more. But it's like, why are you mad about me trying? It's just, I think it's like
it's like you're not fucking trying.
It's an instinctual response, because now that we're not just physical creatures, now that we have like minds and we have social aspects to reality, it's like the new, like, you know what I mean? It's like a response on like a instinct level almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that being said, when you start to make friends with comics, although they're all super imperfect and some of them are real fucked up, the like tightness you have with some of them, because you're both doing something that's unique,
yeah,
but it's similar.
Well, and you're eating shit together,
right? Like
you're like, we all know that this is gonna be, if I, however long in the future, if I'm successful from comedy, it's like the success rate of that is so low.
Right.
Those types of people, it's like we go into it like we're like masochists. We're
right.
like,
you got to get something
like,
out of it.
Yeah, and it's almost like we know that most of us won't be there, so there's a camaraderie in that. Because like when you look at Bert Kreischer and their clique and Joe Rogan's and Tom Segura's, like they're all at the top and friends, so they're like, my whole friend group made it. But it's like they became friends kind of along the way after the fact. You know what I mean? Like,
there's so many people that were also in that group that have disappeared.
And it's like, I'm sure that they still care for these people, but it's just, it's like, it's almost like going into war. You know what I mean? You're with your other soldiers and you're like, we're not all gonna make it, but the ones that do, we all had the balls at least, you know?
Yeah. And I've been very lucky, you know, for me, excuse me, going from just a fan of it, knowing about these cliques and stuff, and going to the Comedy Store. I mean, I was during the Renaissance where there were just famous comics everywhere.
Yeah.
So I got to see that, and then when I got my in with Kill Tony, now every week I'm meeting a new huge comic, and you know,
I guess
them.
I never actually thought about that. It's not just that you meet Tony and Redman, but now you're meeting their friends every fucking week as well. And they're like, hey, this is our guy.
Yeah,
and it's
like
you.
Anything you need, I got you.
Yeah,
you know? And my name's Bogus, so like a lot of people don't forget that. You know, I remember Annie Letterman kept saying my name over and over again. I thought she needed something. She was just saying my name. I'm like, that's kind of cool, huh?
Like Zac Bogus or Bogus?
Just Bogus.
Bogus.
Yeah. She was like, I was setting up the cameras. For some reason, she had a tennis racket. She whopped me in the ass with it, and I was like, this is really weird. But I got to meet all those people throughout the way.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like become friends with them, but like be acquainted with them.
Mm-hmm.
See how they act when they're not on stage, the green room, etc.
And it's almost like when you work a job, like since you're performing at the job, when you're with your coworkers, it's like we're all at least doing the same thing. Right. So like we're all like equals on a certain level. We
may be pawns, but they're CEOs.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like
and it's like
shoulders.
there's like camaraderie with that too, where it's like we're all doing the thing together.
Yeah.
You know, and you never would be like, I may be doing this thing, but I don't think it's that cool. It's like, no, why would you do it then? So you all are like excited.
I did it for free for 9 months. Like I literally moved across the country with no promise of payment, just because I was like, I'm not giving up this opportunity.
That's so So where are you from originally?
I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, so you're East Coast.
Yeah.
Okay, because I grew up in Iowa, like not on a farm, but like around farms, so I'm very familiar with that type of lifestyle. But East Coast is a little bit different. But I think we're the same
energy,
latitude.
Oh yeah,
would be the word.
Maybe.
I think so. We probably grew up around similar like weather and seasons. When did you move to LA then?
Well, I lived in New York, or I lived in Pennsylvania until I was 12. So all my elementary school, and then 6th grade, I moved to New York City, and I lived there until I was 16. My mom kicked me out, so I moved to Tennessee for a year.
Were you in the city of New York?
Yeah.
So you were like 12 to 16 in New York City growing up?
Yeah, I went
That's
from
a trip,
12
man.
to 6. That was like my formative years for sure.
Because I didn't have my formative years till I was like 23 when I was
Really?
in Chicago. Because I've lived in my hometown most of my life.
The
so.
city will grow people up. You'll start to like realize like God isn't real and stuff.
I mean, I don't think God's not real. I just think that religion it's kind of paints the wrong picture. Because the way I see, and me too. And the way I see God is like the concept of God. To me, I believe in it because there has to be a source of everything.
Sure.
Like there can't just be like the inverse of right now is like nothing, because then how do we examine nothing? You know what I mean? So like because I remember having like panic attacks like 6 years old, being like, well, if you're telling me that heaven is where we go, that's forever? Like I'm gonna be there forever? What? And I started having like claustrophobia, you know? I was like, can God just? I literally thought this at 6. I was like, can God just put me in a coma in heaven so I don't have to know that this is never gonna stop?
Yeah. I wonder what happens. I hope there's a heaven. Fuck, dude.
Yeah. So I just think God is real in the sense that like there has to be a source from everything, but I don't think that there's like we assign good and bad to things as a value. So like I think there's a balance that happens, like karma, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's just math. If you think about like transference of energy, it's like everything has to balance out. So yeah, this is the most complicated equation ever, the universe, but it all is like, you know, a balanced equation, I guess.
And the thing about karma too is like, I mean, there are times where I've been like great to everybody and shitty things just kept happening to me. So it's like, it's hard to even think about what karma is on a bigger level, because I've had great things happen to me. I've had so many awesome opportunities, but I've had so many shitty ones too.
Yeah, well, that's almost to say, like, you know, you've seen such cool shit, then you have to you have to eat some terrible shit.
And that means something really good is going to happen soon, because I have had a hard time.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, I'm here for you, brother. I know that we're relatively new friends, but I really respect you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I do feel respected. You fucking brought charcuterie last time. You got fucking everything all set up. That's really
Dude,
cool.
I was ready to do it again. You're like, no, I don't need anything.
No. Hell no, I don't need anything. I just need caffeine.
Yeah, you know? I remembered you liked whiskey, so I figured I would do something. I couldn't show up empty-handed.
I appreciate it's good whiskey.
Yeah, man. I like Tullamore Dew. I like Irish whiskey.
I usually go JMO. I'm going to have another shot.
You really do go JMO?
Usually, yeah.
Why?
Just because that's usually what bars have as their Irish whiskey. Like
okay.
The first one.
Because I don't want to be a Jameson hater, because like I'll drink it and not even complain, but I feel like it's one of those things where it's like somebody's like, you know, likes the generic favorite versus like, oh, well, this is actually the more exquisite. You know, I don't fucking know what makes Tullamore different than Jameson, but
I honestly don't know either, but they're both Irish, right?
Yeah. And I think the thing about Jameson is that once a company just gets so big, you almost have this inherent, like,
they're not the underdogs anymore.
Yeah. It's like, let me just pick one below them or something.
Same color palette, though.
Yeah. And I'm sure if you did a taste test, like, I could tell the difference.
That's smoother than JMO.
Yeah, I think Jameson also has like caramel color added and some weird like it's just, I don't know, dude, because when you look at corporations, they're not humans. They're like a fake amalgamation of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It's like this new species. And so the corporation is always going to be trying to make as much like a computer would. You know what I mean? Like they're calculating tiny little things, and it's like all that means is less love in the product.
Yeah, less direct attention to the small things.
Because I think love is quantifiable in a recipe. You know how people say like, oh, I put some love in it. It's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, I put extra care in every little step. And it's like, so that made every little step better. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it is quantifiable. Like
it is. It's one of those abstract things, though, you know? Like, it's not always on paper, you know? If you have a machine doing everything perfectly, it is what it is.
It's like you can design it to be perfectly what we want, but then it's like, is it missing that just like intimacy?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know.
The artisan touch.
Yeah, that's the same thing with jokes to me. Is like I was saying earlier, you can make anything funny. Like you can write a joke about anything. You get to choose.
Right.
It's up to you. And so I've been through some fucked up shit. Like it actually on Kill Tony, it came up was he. Like, you know how he's so good at pegging people and being like, I feel like
I'm pretty sure he's the one getting pegged. Let's be real.
I know. I just realized what I said. I'm like, oh damn, I didn't even mean to do that one. But he's like really good at looking at somebody, listening to them talk a little, and then just being like, I think I got you figured out. Yeah. But with me, he was so far off. Like he was talking to me, and I was just really nervous, and he was like, I bet that you like your parents take care of you, you live at home with them and your siblings and everything. And it was like, oh no, my parents both died. Yeah. Which is true. Like, so I wasn't, you know what I mean? I wasn't trying to even be funny. I was like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to talk about this right now. You know what I mean? Like it was like a therapy session for the entire world to see. So I was like, no, like, I was like, I don't want to talk about this.
But honestly, that will tell you a lot about yourself. Like if you're under the pressure and you know, like this means a lot to you, you're going to use the right words to describe it because you don't want to say a lot. Like
because he was like, how did they die? And so it was like, I'm like describing how each of them died specifically, and he's like, together? And I'm like, well, no, like separately, but like, and so like I'm just like trying to give him the facts, like if it was my friend asking like, how'd your mom die? And he's like wow, that's fucking terrible. And like, you know what I mean? Like so everybody's just like yeah. And I'm like, make it funny, dude. Yeah. I don't know, like you're the one who brought it up. And so it was like a moment of just, you know, eating shit. But then the very next week, this is why I say this, is because he didn't get me wrong once. He got me wrong back to back 7 days apart. The next week he forgot me from the week before even.
Typical.
And he in the middle of the interview was like, you strike me as somebody who like lives at home with your mom and dad and like, you know, all this shit. And I was like, no, remember like last week, like I told you to die. He's like, oh yeah, you're the fucking boring guy from last week. Like he said that. And but the reason why I brought that up is because you usually use trauma in your comedy to like work through your own shit by making it funny.
Right.
And so early on, like I would say about 5 years into stand-up right now, but more 5 years into like writing stand-up. Performing, I've only been doing it like 2 years really. And so I never really try to write jokes about like my parents dying or like super like traumatic things like that yet, because I'm waiting until I'm like a fucking master to use those materials.
That's smart.
You know what I mean? Like I don't want to like rehash it 4 years from now when I'm really good, and you know what I mean? It's like I'm saving those for when it's like it actually is meaningful and powerful and funny, rather than just me like going like, you're all not gonna not laugh because I just told you I don't have parents. You know what I mean? Like then they're just gonna feel bad for me.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I tried to do that out here. Like after I lost my job at Kill Tony, and I had a lot of crazy shit happen. I was like, all right, well, I'm a comedian. I got to make this funny. So I'd go up there and I'd like trauma dump with little punchlines here and there, but it was more of a trauma dump than it was a joke.
Exactly, and it's like it's a fine line between like you're just saying like
venting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so like to be able to get past that
it's
venting
cringe.
Energy, it is cringe.
Yeah,
and so that's why like I maybe once or twice in my entire stand-up like just like made a joke about the fact that like my parents. I think it was. I was in a Dallas club with some buddies, and they were like, you should go talk to the club owner and try and do stand-up because they wanted to see me. And I was like so new, and so I was just like, fuck it, I'll do it. And the lady was so sweet, man. She was like, you're from Austin? She's like, we like Austin comedy. She's like, I'll let you go up tomorrow night just for you. And I was
awesome.
Dude, it was huge. And I was so fucking scared the whole day. We were supposed to be hanging out. Like one of my friends from Iowa came down, Teddy. He's the best. And
shout out Teddy.
Shout out Teddy Ave. And then my buddy Brandon, we were just like, we're supposed to be chilling, and my friend was visiting. It was like a vacation sort of thing. But so they get me to do that. And so the next day I'm just like, we're all sitting at his apartment while I just go through all my notes because she said I can't swear or use any dirty material.
Oh, dude.
And so like, bro, you know how hard that is.
That's
alone.
Most of my set.
Exactly. Like let alone it's like you never really want to go like, well, I guess I'm really dirty comic who can't, you know what I mean? Like
everybody in the beginning is dirty because they use shock.
Yeah. And so you don't want to go like, oh, well, I'm a shock comic. You're like, no, I'm not. But then you realize you're like,
masturbating.
You're like, all my jokes are about sex and like swearing. And like, so I had to rack all, like, I don't really have that many jokes to begin with at this time, let alone, like, I have to pick ones that are clean and still, like, I'm not going to feel like an idiot.
Right.
And so I, like, racked my fucking brain. And I have the set like recorded, and it was one of those like intimate clubs where the people there were gonna laugh no matter what.
Yeah.
So like God bless them because they just ha 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 like after every punchline. But I had some pretty funny jokes, I think, and I got through it. I'm really proud of myself for that. But I remember I was eating shit, and I said something like, my girlfriend, you know, like hopefully she's got parents because otherwise our kids won't have grandparents. And I said that to try and like get them to like win them over. And then
they go, oh.
And then I was like, yeah, but like they'll look at me and they'll be like, but Garrett, you're like 27. Who the fuck cares? You know? And it's like, because people will be like, oh, you don't have parents. That's so sad. And so I was like, yeah, but I'm a grown man.
I'm not
like,
a little kid.
Yeah. So like I accidentally said
I'm not
fuck.
an orphan.
So I was like, who the fuck cares? And the whole crowd laughed. You know, whatever. I got through my set and afterwards, all the comics who were like clearly regulars and like, you know, like. Dude, they're probably not big names, but they're probably big names in that
around
neighborhood around there, you know. And so they were all coming up to me. They were like, "So we heard you swear," you know what I mean? Like they're like, "What'd she say?" And I was like, "Dude," I went up and I apologized, and she was just like, "No, you know." I think she was mad, but she let it go because it was strictly because the only curse word I used was when I said my parents died.
Right. So it's like you get a pass on that.
Yeah,
one.
dude. So you know what I mean? But
hey, at least you didn't say the N-word.
God, I wish I did at that point. I was like, if they're gonna all hate me anyway, you know?
It could have been funnier. I don't know.
No,
my
it was
parents
like
are dead.
Yeah, and no, just joking. But no, it was like a North Dallas neighborhood, you know, ritzy little neighborhood.
Sure.
Like they were just there to like watch people, you know.
You're either wealthy or you're ghetto up there.
Yeah, and we're supposed to be the butt of the joke as a comedian, so I don't even think they listen to you half the time. Like they're trained to like know, oh, that's a punchline, you know.
Right, and also it sounds like one of those shows like where it's a lot of new comics too. Like they give a lot of people opportunities.
No, it wasn't, bro.
Oh,
that's
really?
why it was so crazy.
So they just had you opening on a like.
It was a showcase. It was a showcase,
way.
and so that's why when I asked her, like, and she was just bro. I wasn't, dude. I was. If she would have really known, like, she'd be like, you are a fucking open micer. Like, why the fuck would I let you up? But I think, like, she was like, all right, I'll give this guy a chance.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I'm proud of myself because, like, I did not eat shit that bad. Like, they actually really, like, enjoyed my set.
Yeah,
but
hey, if you get any laughs at all in your first showcase, that's a win.
And, bro, that's the thing is, so that time, and then there was 2 other times where, like, it was, like, my, like, during my rise of like getting better at stand-up, it was like moments where I was like, I feel like you said, where it's like I have an opportunity, I can't say no, but I'm fucking terrified.
That's
and
the
so
key.
At those moments, it's like I have anxiety all the time. Like I'm just like that. Like it's not even almost anxiety, it's like anticipation. You know what I mean? Like when it's like, do you remember finishing homework and you're almost done and you're like, you know, like I gotta get it done. It's almost done. And
2
so,
more math questions, and then I get to watch Chalk Zone.
Yeah, and so that anticipation is like a thing I'm used to. But those moments were the few moments where it was like almost like I knew if I let it get to me at all, it would ruin the moment. And so like I can't ever just like turn the switch and do it on my own. But those moments, and coincidentally, they happened to be like the most important ones, were when I was like, can't even think about it. Like I was just like, I just have to. Like I have a set I did in my hometown a couple years ago, and it was like right when I was new to stand up, and my buddy, they had fuck. We're having
Hold
such
that
good
thought.
Conversation. God damn it. There we go.
Having a conversation with your buddy in your hometown.
Yeah, so like they actually have stand up there now, which is so cool. But so he got me on a mic that they were doing, and I didn't realize this, but like my brothers showed up, like 15 of my friends showed up, and they were all like, oh, he moved to Austin to do stand-up, let's go see.
That's
and
awesome though.
It is awesome, like that they were there for me, but in my mind, like it was like, I'm not very good at stand-up, but they're gonna think like that, you know what I mean? Like they're well, not hot shit, but it was like they're gonna judge me entirely based off of this. Yeah. So if I didn't do good, they would be like, he fucking sucks. He moved across the country to do this, and they would just like write me off in their minds. You know what I mean? So like, I remember just being so nervous, but I was like in the green room waiting to go up, and as soon as they said it, I'm like, I cannot fucking not do well here, and I just flipped this fucking switch, dude.
Get in the zone.
Yeah, and like there was one moment where the nerves came because they let me go longer than everybody else because they knew like, oh, this guy lives in Austin and like,
yeah, you're the big ticket.
I brought 30 people. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I'm nobody, but they were like, well, most of the people here is here to see him. So they let me go longer, and I just like wasn't used to people liking every joke I did. And so I ran out of jokes, and then there was like not like, all right, you're done. So I was just like, fuck, what do I do now? And I remember I'm like, any topics you guys want me to talk
Just
about?
Improv right there.
Abortion. I was just like, fuck.
Dude, and then that's the thing, right? Eventually, your tool belt, any topic that comes up,
Yeah.
you're going to have a joke
You're going to have something, yeah.
Like, I've already got like 2 abortion jokes in my belt that I'm ready to whip out at any point in time.
Well, what's funny is my first set ever back in Chicago, when I first like was like, I'm going to give it a shot. Like I said, I like did a riff because so many of those liberal Chicago comedians were doing abortion jokes, like pro-abortion.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me do a joke about it, but let me do like a neutral stance. And so I was like, they all keep joking about coat hanger abortions, and I just like, I don't really know what that means. It's like, is it like Captain Hook just like snatching a clock out? Like, what the fuck? So it's like a dumb joke, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you can see where I'm going, but it's also like, that doesn't really make sense. But it just bombed, and I was just like, all right, that's just something I shouldn't have said. And they all like, ha ha ha.
And that's
he
the thing
owned
about
up to
audiences.
it. You know, it's like you do have to kind of dig yourself into a ditch
Yeah.
and then be able to climb out. Like, that's the art of comedy. It's
And
like
it's
it's not
different.
about like running through the daisy field. You know, it's like, no, I want to be like skirting mines and fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's like
the danger is the important part of it.
It's a high-speed car race every time. It's
Yeah.
like, which turn am I taking next? Yeah, and it's the thing too. Audiences are all so different. You know, like I've done shows down in Austin. You can get away with edgier jokes.
Yeah.
And then you go up to Georgetown, which is only 45 minutes away. And there was a showcase that they do up at Barrels and Amps that I did, and all of my jokes that worked in Austin that were like a little edgier
Yeah.
did not work up there. People
Yeah.
were like not having it. They were all a little bit more right leaning.
Yeah.
So like any jokes that I thought would work with like liberal crowds didn't work. But then I had some.
Are you saying that because Austin, I feel like you can they'll laugh at more liberal shit?
They'll laugh at more liberal shit, but they also like it edgy, you know? So
Yeah.
like the Tim Dillon version of liberal. where
Yeah,
it's, like,
right.
feigning ignorance, acting right wing, but also acting retarded.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
But
he
if you-
plays both sides.
Right, but he, you know, it hits that in between where it works on both sides a little
Yeah.
bit. But up there, man, you can't. Like I have this joke. What do sharks and school shooters have in common?
What?
All the great ones are white. It did not work in Georgetown. It did not work up there. They're like, what are you saying? White people with guns? Bad?
Oh, maybe they're just so progressive that they're like, the black shooters
No,
are good
they're
too.
not progressive up there. That works. That joke works down here in Austin. That was my closer down here.
That's pretty good, man. I like that one a lot. You know, it's
Thanks.
hard. It's hard to like, because with school shooting jokes, people tighten up so much that it's hard to like get one with like, fucking sharks. What?
Yeah,
you know,
you're
like,
like, you're-
what's it gonna be with sharks?
Right. Well, it's
actually
also it's
really
like
good.
you can't make school shootings funny. What do you can't?
I hate
But then
that
it's like
mentality,
no, but
man.
you're blaming the people the white guys who did it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you think it's gonna go in a direction you don't want it to, but yeah. And also, I think so. Here's the thing about that joke. My racist grandpa told me a version of that joke. He said, "What do?" He said,
Shout
"What
out
do-"
to your race.
Yeah, he's dead now, but
Oh, R.I.P.
you know, rest in peace. And also, fuck you, grandpa. No, I don't care. I mean, I do care. He was my grandpa, but he's dead now, so I don't care anymore.
Fair enough, man.
His version of the joke was, what do sharks and people have in common? All the great ones are white.
That's pretty funny.
And I was like, grandpa, that's racist as fuck, but that is hilarious. I'm going to steal that. So, grandpa, thank you for that joke. I still use it as my closer.
Oh my God.
But yeah, no.
That makes it so much funnier that was like a real joke he
It was,
said.
he told me it over
That's
the
like
phone.
the most racist dad joke
It was
ever.
one of the last conversations that we had before he died. It might have been the second to last conversation that him and I had over the phone, and I laughed my ass off because I thought it was so clever, but it was so racist.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because I think everything should be joked about. But that's like when you can joke about something like that where most people are not gonna want to laugh, and it's like so clever that you're like, I'm not laughing at the racism. I'm laughing at how clever it is. It's like those I love those jokes.
Those are better jokes.
Well, they're better jokes, but it's like I'll laugh at fucked up shit all day. Like
But if it's too on the nose, it might actually be racist.
Well, I get that, but it's like I'll personally laugh at anything, but I love jokes like that because you can tell them to somebody who that might like really piss off, but you have to be like, but it's pretty clever, right? You know, and then they're like, yes, I guess, dude. Like, let me give you like, so not to toot my own horn, but I think this is pretty clever.
Do it. I want to hear it.
We were at a restaurant last night. It was my girlfriend and our friend Cher, and the waiter was really cool, but like, you know, when you go to a restaurant and they're just way too much, like they're like performing like they're doing stand up, and it's like, dude, I'm gonna tip you well because I'm like,
they're like, this is where I get to be charismatic.
Yeah, and they like make jokes and they tell you about yourself, and it's so like he was being like that. I'm like, all right, this guy's extra, but like I don't want to be like, fuck you,
right?
But I also am just like, you don't have to do this, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I
we're
can see
chill.
you crying behind that smile.
Yeah. And so he was being like that, so I kind of clocked that early on. Like, I was like, all right, this guy's just like, he's a character. But it was, you know, I could put up with it. It was fine. But then while we were ordering, I can't remember exactly what the joke was, but he made a joke to my girlfriend like about the beans, and he said something like, I know you like black.
Oh.
And
that's an edgy joke for a server.
No, right. And so I was just sitting there, and I like, for comedic effect, I let about 3 seconds go by. Yeah. And so he's like kind of making a joke about, I don't think he was actually like hitting on my girlfriend, but he was doing the server thing where he's like, I'm not afraid to flirt. And so it was just like, dude, I mean, that was pretty over the top. So I was like, I'm going to say something back.
15%.
I'm going to say something back. So he says that. He goes, well, I know you like black, so like black, right? And about 3 seconds go by, and I go, well, what if I don't like black? It's just like, he was a good sport. He goes, well, I'm brown, so it's, and I was like, fair enough.
She likes kidney beans.
Because he wasn't doing it to be like aggressive.
Yeah,
he was doing it to try and
funny.
be funny and cute. But I was like, if he's gonna open the door, then I'm gonna be funny and cute back. You know?
Yeah. Oh, you think you're funny? I do it on stage, bitch.
Yeah. But my friend Cher, she's normally the type to get really mad about that type of jokes, but so she was like, all right, fine. Like that was funny, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, see, I love when you can make somebody laugh at something that they would normally be like detesting, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, see, it just lighten up, you know?
And that's the thing too. Like I used to be a server because I mean I'm a comedian. I'm charismatic. I can practice while I'm serving, or at least I can get into that zone where I'm making things funny, even if they're not edgy. But I worked at the Four Seasons Hotel, like 5-star hotel
Fancy
downtown.
ass place.
Fancy ass.
Was
place.
that here?
Yeah, I was working in their lounge, and I was a lounge server. They have, you know, the Forbes etiquette guide, and I have to play it to a T. But there would be people where I'd like make conversation with, and I'd slide in like jokes and stuff like that.
I'm just imagining some ritzy people, and you're just like making like racial humor. They're like, what?
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, I got away with a lot. I definitely got away with a lot, but there were times where I dug myself into holes. Like there's
water.
Sure, there was this lady who I was like reading something off the menu to her, but I said the price wrong because I was reading it upside down, and I was like, what's that thing where you can't read?
Dyslexic?
Yeah, I told her I'm dyslexic, my bad, and I said that kind of like jokingly, like I'm not actually dyslexic. I was just like, oh, I didn't read that right. She goes, oh really? My son's dyslexic. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like making conversation with her about it. Time goes on. I come back to the table later. She's like, this is my son. It's like a 5-year-old boy. And she's like, sweetheart, this guy's dyslexic too. And I had to be, I like squatted down beside him, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what, you can't read shit? You're 5. But I'm down there and I'm like, isn't it difficult sometimes? I'm trying to like make conversation with this kid. Like this mom set me up to make conversation about dyslexia to a 5-year-old.
He's the like, kid's there?
Yeah. And his mom introduced me like this guy could help you out because he knows what you're going through. And I'm like...
like you're a mentor.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just made a joke about not being able to read, and now I had to talk to this
You're like,
child.
lady, your kid's fucking retarded. I was just kidding.
I'm like, I can fucking read. But I was like,
I'm a grown adult. He's 5. I can kick him.
I'm
okay?
like, isn't it hard sometimes?
You can read the size on the bottom of my boot. Fuck your kid, lady. You know.
But yeah, I did it well. I played the part. I did like go home that night really feeling bad about leading them on. Like, oh, I can't joke about being dyslexic anymore. I can't make jokes like that because people out there are really struggling.
No, that's funny because they were totally like, look, see this guy is doing fine.
See, this
Our
guy's
kid's
old
gonna
and
be
he's
all right.
retarded too.
It's like your kid's probably gonna grow out of the dyslexia. He's 5.
He's 5. I couldn't read when I was 5. I can barely read now. I'm 29.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I get dyslexia sometimes. Like I almost just said dyslexia. Like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
It's like sometimes I'm like just dumb and I just say the wrong thing.
Even if you aren't dyslexic, sometimes you smoke enough weed, anything goes. Like you literally.
Well, and like you said with serving, especially if you like get high at work and then you have to go be social with strangers.
Right, and act like you're
leads,
not high.
Well, it's just like comedy. It's like, you know, there's a lot that could go wrong when no one knows you don't know anyone,
right.
and you're expected. You know what I mean? Like, or not expected, but they have expectations of you.
There's a lot of expectations.
Like when you're a server, you're like they expect you to make them feel comfortable, get what they want. They don't have to wait. You know, all these things.
It's never worth the money.
Yeah, and so like you have to trick them into not feeling like they're stupid for coming out to a restaurant. And that's the same thing with comedy. It's like these people decided to take the limited amount of time in their life and listen to what dumb shit you thought of.
Servers are actors. Comedians are actors.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And
you're just pretending to make people get a desired result out of people.
And I've been in the service industry my whole life, like bartending and serving. That's all I know. I'm really good at it. And I hate that. Like people are like, oh, well, you're like, you know, like it's like you're a really good host. It's like, it makes me want to die knowing that I've invested like 12 years of most of my weeks into like taking care of people.
Yeah.
And also what fucks me up is when you think about it, if you're a tip-based employee, most of your bills are paid by people's generosity.
Right.
And so it's almost like on a karmic level, it's like is this why I should never ask for anything from the universe? Because they're basically saying, motherfucker, your entire existence is
dance for me.
Yeah, like it's like you know,
want to pay rent, keep dancing.
Every food, drink, bill, like anything you ever have is almost entirely from people going, I didn't have to spend this, but I chose to.
If you boil it down, we're all whores.
Yeah, man.
We're just prostitutes trying to make a buck.
And it's like that's why I like to think of myself as like a black lady trying to feed her kids as a whore, rather than like just slutty. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't want to be promiscuous. I feel like
lying alone on the bedroom floor because he's hungry, and the only way to feed him is to sleep with the man for a little bit of money, and the daddy's gone.
Yeah.
You know that song?
Yeah, dude.
That's how I picture you.
Yeah, man.
Working.
No, for real. Like
shirt tucked in, like.
That's what I want. I want people to see me as like I have a weave.
Yeah.
You know,
like a desperate single mom.
If you catch me at home, like it'll look like I was alarmed that you're in my house when you took the picture. Like I'm, just a couple scraggly hairs, like shaved head.
Doing the best you can.
I got all my sisters on the wall, all the fucking wigs. All the
most of them are dead, rest in peace.
That's the type of whore I am.
That's okay.
It's because I have kids to feed.
Exactly. A sad whore is better than a proud whore, if I'm being honest.
Like, I'm not some 20-year-old who's like, everybody loves me,
Right.
Like,
they
I'm
have
a grown man.
For that.
I'm 29. It's like, I feel like a little kid still because I don't have any structure in my life.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like when you see a single mom and you're like, she works hard.
You've got a regular podcast. That is more structure than most people have. If you do something once a week, that's better than me.
And
dude.
It's so hard, man. It's so funny because it's like two hours to record a week and then like a couple hours to edit a week. But then it's like, okay, 4 hours a week. I work 40 in a week. What's 4? But it's like still debilitating.
But then when you're doing your regular job and you're like, wow, this sucks. I wish I could be doing my other job right now.
Does that happen to you? Because that happens to me is like when I'm going to work or at work, it's like I'm so motivated to do the things that I need to do.
And
then when I get home, because I'm not at work, I'm like,
tired.
oh, I don't care anymore.
Right, you're tired.
Like on my way to work, I'm like, I'm going to study my notes. I'm going to do a set. I'm going to do some comedy. And then it's like I get home and I'm like, I'm tired.
My thing is like, if I'm working for somebody else, I'll live up to their standards. Like I'll work way harder than I'll work for myself.
Yeah, no, for
I'm
sure.
lazy.
For sure.
Because
I signed up. Like it's like I put my name down and said I'll do that for you. Yeah. And I'm not a bitch. I'm also a man of my fucking word.
I know what I need to do to make my money through the normal process, right? But it takes so much energy to work for somebody else. But when it comes time to like, oh, if I feed this thing that I'm doing for myself, maybe it'll make money in the future. You're supposed to put more love into that, but you don't have any more energy for it.
No, it's like a cook. They say like a chef will go home and he doesn't want to cook for himself.
He's eating Hot Pockets.
It's sad, but it's real life, man. It's like I only have so much energy.
Exactly. And I envy the people.
We're not all David Goggins, bro.
Right.
You know,
I envy those people. Like there's a lot of comedians out there that work really hard. They have a normal job, but then they put in like equal amount of time to their craft. And I'm like, how do you survive? Like if I work a normal day, I'm going home and I'm sleeping. I need to smoke weed to deal with my stress.
6 hours on my feet and I'm like, that's all I got.
I'm like, I'm gonna go sleep, I'm gonna get stoned, I'm gonna you know, that's gonna be it. I'm gonna just deal with my life. But dude, I guess it comes down to being on the right amount of medications. If you are not constantly depressed, like maybe you'll have enthusiasm.
Everybody's balancing. Like it's all caffeine or nicotine or alcohol
cocaine.
Or, you know.
I had to stop. It made me crazy. I literally was addicted for
I've never been
3 years.
I'm not into that stuff really. Like
the whole time I was on Kill Tony.
It's a big thing in Austin. Really?
Yeah, and then 2
you
years
were
after.
Skinny. You were pretty skinny back then.
I mean, I was even skinnier before.
Just joking.
I'm like 270 right now.
Now you're just fluffy like a cloud.
I honestly I don't give a fuck. I think I am very comfortable with my body. A lot of people have like the flabby fat bodies where they got titties.
Well, you're a big guy, man.
Yeah.
You know, like.
But like my belly is soft, and I have like, if I took a picture from here up, people would be like, oh, he might just be buff.
Yeah,
but I'm not.
For sure. I get that.
Underneath this,
you have like a neck. You have a neck for the buff.
I have a neck. You know? I have shoulders.
Yeah.
Because when I go to the gym, it's like the only thing I work out. So like when I'm taking pictures, when I'm taking selfies that I crop from here up, you know, you just see it's like, oh man, maybe he's buff, and then you see my whole body, and you're like,
you're a genius. That makes.
I've been doing it for years. And you all get scammed. I'm actually fat. No, but my skinniest, I was like 200 pounds. When I was a teenager, I was like 300 pounds. So I lost a lot of weight. I'm like
200 right now. And I could lose like probably 25 pounds and be in really great shape, but...
You don't look like you're in bad shape.
No, yeah. I mean, like BMI or whatever, it's like, yeah, you're obese almost. I think I'm like the last tier before obese, overweight. But it's like, I know I'm out of shape, but I have muscles, and I'm not like... Because I probably... Like I was a fat kid, you know, like when I was young.
Yeah,
I was a fat kid, and so I think that also affects how you are. Like I think fat kids are great people. Well, I think they're great people.
Yeah.
Like I think like if you're a girl, guy, anything, if you're fat as a kid, you shouldn't worry because you're going to be the nicest person, and like, you know what I mean? Or if you're raised around fat people, you know, even if you're skinny, like
anybody
just
from
that
San
empathy,
Antonio.
man. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't know, dude. I think I'm glad that I was fat as a kid because like I when you are a kid and you're fat, it makes you so self-conscious, and then when you get older you realize it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
So it's like people will say to me like when I gain weight, like I'll be like, "Oh, I gained weight," and people are like, "No, you don't look like that fat."
Nobody notices as much as you do.
Yeah, but then if like I lose weight, people are like, "Why you're like losing weight?" And it's like I don't care. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like body type wise, like I'm overweight, but I don't look like you said. It's like I don't look like, oh my god, he's so fucking fat. But it's like I know I'm fat, but I don't feel bad about it. Like
I feel like I'm funnier the fatter I am. Just naturally, I look funnier when I'm saying things. People, because when you're sitting in an audience and you see somebody on stage and you're like, that guy's attractive, immediately.
No, for sure, dude.
You're like, I don't relate with that guy.
I talk about that a lot because like I made a joke when I stopped doing stand up for like 6 months and I gained like 20 pounds. And so I made a joke about how I just went away and I got fat, and everybody just looked at me like, he's not fat. And I'm like, well, I am. Like, to me, I gained a lot of weight. But that's the thing is, like, when you go up on stage, because we're supposed to be vulnerable and make people laugh, if you walk out and you're like fit, handsome, in shape, you know, like person, people are like, well, what the fuck does he have to worry about? You know, like, why is his life hard at all? You know? And so, like, there is a part of it where, like, sometimes I'll literally be like, I should grow my beard and hair out and look scruffier and shittier and, like,
and that's the
less
weird
clean
thing.
cut, because people will treat me differently. I've noticed it, bro. I've literally noticed it.
It's a weird thing with the act of doing comedy, right? Like, you have to imagine that, like, when you're reading your set to yourself in your head, this is the first time you've ever said it. You know what I mean? Like, this is the first time the audience member is ever seeing you or hearing you. So they're looking at you objectively in a way that you don't look at yourself. And that's a hard thing to perceive. You have to be like, okay, well, if I saw myself for the first time, if I was a random person, third person view out of my body, what would I think about myself? That's a hard thing to do. So you kind of have to build that based off of what people tell you. And that is hard to do too. Yeah. So, like, if you hear anything bad about yourself, you're focusing on it. So one person calls you a little chubbier. Like, maybe your mom's like, you're putting on weight. That sticks in your head and you're like, I'm fat now. Yeah. But people see you for the first time and they're like, yeah, he looks like a fit guy, like a... Yeah. But in your head, you've had this history with your entire life that you are building yourself off of. It's not relatable unless you are if you have to imagine you're hearing it for the first time. The thoughts are, because people aren't going to remember you in the audience. They don't remember you from where you were last year.
Well, it's that, and it's also because you see yourself every day, you don't notice subtle changes. So, like, whether you gain or lose weight, if it's like over the course of a couple months, you won't really notice because it was gradual. Yeah. But other people don't see you every day, like when you get out of the shower in the mirror and shit. You know what I mean? Like, you see yourself the most, so you don't notice subtle changes. And then once you're like a lot skinnier or a lot fatter, like, you didn't really notice it much until somebody else goes like, oh, you've gained weight, or oh, you've lost weight. Then you look like, you're like, oh, okay, I guess I have, but I didn't really notice.
It's hard. It's hard to, like,
kind of devastating, dude.
Right. It's hard to figure out what reality is, right? Yeah. Because a lot of times we let other people decide for us what's going on, and we're like, well, they said it, so that must be reality. Yeah. But also, you can make that funny. Like, I used to work at a popcorn stand in the mall in California. Yeah. And I had this asshole customer. There's asshole customers all the time, but this guy bought an icy, drank it, like half of it was gone, tried to get a refund for it, and I was like, no, we don't do that. This is the mall. You bought an icy, you know, whatever, you drank half of it.
You fucking Paul Blart.
he starts like going at me super aggressively, like, I'll fuck you up if I see you in the street.
Did he have a white t-shirt on and like jean shorts?
He was taller than me. Yeah, honestly, that's kind of what he was, a big fat black dude, and he had a girl that all yadded up in the face. She's tattooed, and I'm just standing like here. This is a candy apple display case. I'm standing right here, and he's on the other side, and he's like threatening me. And he pulls out his phone and starts recording me, and I fucking unleashed on him into the camera, and he posted it online thinking that it was going to get people
like on his side.
But all of a sudden, like, people are on my side rallying for me.
Wait, when did this happen?
This happened about 10 years ago.
Holy shit. So this is like OG viral. Like,
yeah.
This was
and I...
So you were viral 10 years ago, man.
Yeah. And this was before I ever considered doing any comedy or anything.
That's
this
crazy.
was just me going off the chain.
You're just quantum like that. You're always just like tied to the energy.
Every 6 months it goes viral again. And then I did this like Reddit AMA on it like probably 5 years ago. And people remember, like, half of my followers on Instagram are from that video. People will tag me in it and be like, hey, you're going viral again. I just read the comments, and that all of my self-deprecation jokes, anyways, the point of that whole story, all of the jokes that I have about who I am that are relatable to everybody else came from that comment section.
Like, just a fire comment section.
Like, I had a little chin strap beard, I had a lip ring, and I was wearing like a backwards baseball cap. And people were like, Matt Damon works in the mall now? Like,
that's
people
funny.
Calling me all these things. And then I like started using that as my first show, my first joke. I'd be like, people ask me if my glasses are real. They are. If I don't wear them, I look like Matt Damon with fetal alcohol. And then people just like, I don't know if it's just the word choice or what, people go crazy for it.
Well, it's
I can't
multiple
use it
things.
anymore.
It's like it still works for sure. You still have the Matt Damon look, but that's why it's funny is because people see a little Matt Damon, they see you shitting on yourself a little bit, you know. But it's also just like
You should. Do you want to see the video?
I think I have seen it.
Yeah.
I think I have. Where I've heard
It's
you
on
say
my
that joke on
Instagram.
something before, but yeah, it's the thing about it is like, have you noticed because of Kill Tony, the amount of, especially since most people that want to do comedy come to Austin, and obviously there's like LA and everywhere else, but most people in the past 3 years I've noticed open their sets with like the same like 3-4 jokes about like, I know I look like,
Right.
and I know I'm this, and
Tony.
and I watched them all get roasted by Tony
Yeah.
with that, and then they were just like, and he's like, yeah, well, duh, like I'm a professional comedian, why would you not use this material I gave you? Like this one guy, he used to joke about looking like Lush or fucking Malfoy from Harry Potter. I don't know if you know that guy. And like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
Joe
Tony,
McNamara.
yeah, and Tony would legit like just roast people on Kill Tony,
Shout
and then
out
I
Joe
would.
McNamara.
He's funny, dude. I like that guy
I love
a
that
lot.
guy. I saw him do his first open mic after Kill Tony.
Yeah,
And
man.
then he's like hosting shows and shit. I see him out there.
Some
working.
people just have the right persona and the right confidence, and like, and they're smart enough and they're cool enough, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I could ever be that person. I'm just like so fucking schizo. Like, I'm just so like,
it's
I'm
one
an
of those
anxious
things.
mess. I really like people and I connect with people, but it's like, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to feel like a connection, and then I'm like, oh, I think we could be friends. But
Sure.
like, otherwise in public, like, I'm just very like, I hate this, and I'm usually fucking stoned, and that doesn't fucking help. You know what I mean?
I don't know about you, but like if I smoke and go to an open mic, anything that I'm supposed to learn from what I've said on stage, I probably won't retain as well. Like I recorded all of my sets. I would record all of my open mics just so I'd go back, listen to anything I added or took away from, listen to where the laughs are.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm high and I'm doing that on stage, I'm not remembering my tags from before.
Yeah.
But also like I need to be high all the time.
Well, and it's not even just high. It's any sort of substance that alters something. Like even if you take a fucking hit of a nicotine vape or something. You know what I mean? It's like you can prepare, but the way I'm the same way. I don't think I need alcohol. I don't think I need anything. I think I do my best comedy when I'm sober.
Same. I think anybody
But it's
would.
always the fact that it's social.
Yeah.
That you always are we're always at bars, you know, and we're always like having a cigarette with somebody, which cigarettes fucking affect your
Absolutely.
mental functions. And
They
so
kind
like
of chill you out a little bit.
yeah,
though.
and so it's always like that's what's hardest part for me is like the curveball of my own substance abuse issues, you know, like not substance abuse,
try
but you know what I
cocaine.
mean, like. But it's just the fact that like you're constantly trying to balance the social equation. That by the time you get to go perform, it's not what you prepared for. You're like
Right.
now, and it's like if you not the same, but an extreme example is if you get like hammered, you're like I don't fucking remember anything, so. You know, now it's
You're just
completely
jerking
different.
off.
And
Yeah.
so like part of the art of being a successful comedian is not just working hard, but it's also like if you're gonna need things to balance you out, like even if it's fucking caffeine, you know, like even if you need like I need a coffee before this, you have to master that as well. It's
Yeah.
not just the comedy, it's also your own like cognition with substances.
Yeah.
So that's what
Your
separates.
mind is the tool,
Yeah.
and you decide how good of a grip you have.
Yeah,
on
it's
it.
like a car. It's like your comedic mind is like a car, and so it requires maintenance. But sometimes you're also like, you know, the rain. Like maybe I should put on my rain tires.
Yeah.
Or like you know what I mean. And so you're kind of modifying how you're gonna be.
Or you could just do it the way that you know is best for your main goal, which is to get better, and that's to be sober.
Yeah.
That being said,
That's really the way
hard
to
to
be.
do.
It is. It's very. I mean. Look at the people that become comedians, you know. You're like hard to describe.
I'm literally.
You know,
this
I'll
is like
take
what,
I'll
my
take some
fourth
too.
one?
But no, I mean we're doing very fine. That's not even close to half a bottle yet. But that's the thing about comedians, man, as we get into it because we have different ways of seeing the world. You know, most
Yeah.
comedians are very similar people.
It's true.
And trauma plays a big part, but it's also
almost necessary.
I mean, I wouldn't say necessary. I would say it's integral. Like people with trauma,
some people
that become comedians,
Yeah.
it is very much a part of their act.
But when somebody doesn't have trauma, like Nate Bargatze, and you can do clean comedy
Oh my
like
gosh.
that.
And maybe he does have trauma, but
It's
he doesn't
harder.
bring it to his comedy.
That
And
I
so
would-
that's why I love his comedies.
And that's more impressive
Yeah.
to not go for the
Yes.
low hanging fruit, to be able to
100%.
make something clean funny.
100%.
I can't fucking
It's
do
like
that.
it's like a pastor being funny in church. You know what I mean? Like it's like if a pastor can make me laugh, I'm like, I fuck with this dude. Like
'cause
you know what I
it's
mean?
not-
Like
it's not sex or violence jokes.
yeah, like if you're at a because I don't go to church regularly. I did when I was a kid, but like if you're at a wedding or something and the pastor's like fucking funny, dude. I used to write about that. Like I don't just write jokes. Like I also journal. I also like I've always been a writer. You know what I mean? Like when I was in like first grade, I remember being like, I like writing. You know, so like when I got into comedy, writing's a big part of it, but that's why I was saying earlier, it's like I'd almost rather just like write than perform, but I want to do both, so I'm gonna try and get better at performing. But it just comes down to like writing is
Mm.
fun, and I wrote about how like pastors are basically comedians, you know, like they're basically like, I have to be up here and talk about the word of God, but like I don't want you guys to hate me.
You don't want them to fall asleep,
like,
you know?
Like I'm supposed to be up here telling you the real shit about life, but I have to make it where you're not gonna be like, fuck this guy or bored or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Until I was 12, I went to church every single Sunday. Every sermon I did not pay attention to.
Really?
I was drawing like little things on the back of the paper, like I was just literally like preoccupying myself. I could not retain. I was so ADHD. I could not retain a fucking thing.
That's funny, man. They used to send the kids downstairs when I went to church as a kid.
Mm.
It was literally like halfway through mass, like, all right. It was almost like they would like
Catholic
samba their way, like be like, all right, yeah. It was like kids
I
come
went
downstairs.
to like a community church.
I mean, I forget the name of the movie, but have you seen that one movie where like this kid is at a hotel and he's like hiding when all these people come in for this assembly, and then they all turn out to be witches, and they all like rip off their masks and shit, and they're straight up fucking witches, and it's like a kid's movie, and I remember from a kid, and it gave me nightmares forever. But that's like yeah, I'll have to look up that fucking movie. I know it's real. It's not one of those Mandela effects or whatever.
Yeah. This is just a dream you've had.
Yeah, I can't fucking. I'll lose my train of thought.
That's
I'll try
funny.
to find it though.
Yeah, I went to a community church where we had like a church band and shit, and Sunday school was like very not it was more entertaining than most churches, I think. Because we had like the youth group band, this guy playing electric guitar. It's like, hop on the bus, God's on the move. There's a seat for me, and there's a seat for you. It don't matter what you've done.
I think it's called The Witches, bro.
The Witches.
Yeah, the TV shut off because I haven't used it in a while, but it's called The Witches, I think. Yeah, a young boy stumbles onto a witch convention and must stop them, even after he's been turned into a mouse. So it's like a kid's movie, but I remember being like, that is so fucking scary.
A witch convention?
Yeah, I forget what we were fucking talking about that made me.
Do you think they all like
but...
book a hotel package together? Like,
yeah, for real. That's like.
Who's paying for a witch convention?
Yeah,
is there a lot of money in being a witch?
I wonder if the company card was put down, like what would be the name of that company? Like,
Blood money?
Yeah. We eat children just like the Epsteins.
Yeah. Adrenochrome.
For real.
Yeah, they're probably, I mean, I don't know. If there's a lot of money in being a witch, maybe I'll look into signing up, because honestly, I'll do anything at this point for money.
God, that's what I was saying. I was trying to explain it to my girlfriend, where it's like, I love comedy, I love doing podcasts, but I just get so much anxiety about my expectations from others before I do it, that it's like, I don't even think I like doing it.
Right, but that, you know what, you're letting it ruin that. It's hard. It's really hard not to focus on it, but
the hardest part is like the first 10 years of you just eating shit and not knowing why you still do it. And then if you can
just
get through that,
keep doing
like,
it.
Yeah,
you just have to keep doing it, and maybe there are times where you're not going to find joy in it, But if you let other people, what you presume is other people's expectations, you're never going to grow, you know? Like, part of the beginning part where you're not necessarily killing it is figuring out how to kill it.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to be a pro ice skater the first time you put on skates.
It's like, because, you know, part of it is, like, you don't just go up there and just, like, say shit you want to say, because people are like, fuck you, man. Like, you know, it's too arrogant. So you have to find, like, this balance between saying what you want people to think about, but also catering to, like, you know what I mean? You can't just go Alex Jones mode every time up there. Like, they're fucking, you know, like, you have to, like, navigate
Even Alex
it.
Jones started from a sane place.
Yeah. Once he amassed enough people, then he's like, all right, now I can go balls to the wall.
Yeah. You got to establish yourself as an individual, as a character. You know, what people will recognize you from if they see a big body of work.
Yeah.
And then you have room to be Theo Von or fucking, you know.
Well, in Michael Lehrer.
Michael Lehrer,
example, dude. Because he was in comedy for a while, but Kill Tony is, I feel like so many people were like, I get exactly what you're like, they appreciated it. You know what I mean? Like,
Michael Lehrer is such a character study. I'm really, really lucky to have, like, been able to live with him for almost 6 months.
You were really close, man. Like,
yeah,
you were there for it all, dude.
I met him when I started working for Kill Tony because he had just recently become a regular. And I would talk to him in the halls and stuff during the normal shows, and we became like friends, but we weren't close until I started working for Kill Tony. And he was like, he'd have all these ideas for skits that required props, so I'd pick them up in my fucking Hyundai Sonata, and we'd just go to like the Halloween store or whatever and buy masks, like make all these props for his skits and stuff. So him and I became close friends. And then when Kill Tony was moving, and Michael was like, I'm going to break up with my girlfriend caretaker right now. Do you want to live with me in Texas? I'm like, fuck yeah. So I packed him up.
Was this like 2020?
We moved in February of 2021.
Oh, so this, okay. Because I think I moved here, bro, in like March.
Yeah.
Or like I moved to Houston in March and I stayed with my buddy for like a month while I got my apartment here. So it was like probably like May or June. But that was right when I moved here too.
Yeah, so
I didn't know you guys moved here right then.
They moved here. I mean, they basically started Kill Tony Austin, the beginning of 2021, the very, very end of 2020. Like I think there was like a show or two that I missed while I was still in LA, but him and I drove from LA to here. We had come out for like the first 2 shows, and then we flew back. But we moved into the same apartment complex that Tony used to live in on like Rainy Street. We didn't know what Rainy Street was. We moved in there and it's just fucking party central downstairs.
Yeah, dude.
A fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
But we move into this luxury apartment. It's a studio. It's 300 square feet. So his bed is facing my bed and we're just in this
You guys split a studio?
Yeah. 1 bedroom. Literally, like, his bed is right there. My bed is right there.
Dude, that's fucking crazy.
That's
like when, like military shit, you know what I mean? You really get to know somebody when you sleep with them like that, dude.
Oh yeah. Well,
there's no shame, there's no, like, you're completely vulnerable with each other, bro.
It's true. Well,
you become tight like that.
He needs a caretaker, you know, and I became his caretaker. I took care of him for probably 4 months. Until his girl came back into his life.
So it was the same one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, because I loved her, dude. She's such an angel.
She
but
is an
when
angel.
you said he was like, I'm leaving her. Really?
She hates me.
Why?
I think it's because at the very end, when I was living with Michael, she started to realize that I could not take care of him the way that he did. And he used to complain. Like, he was dying in his own body. Like, he would complain about everything. He was and part of ALS is, you become bipolar. Your brain switches very quickly. So he'd go from being really excited about something to like hating it. So there were a few times where he really disliked me. And he wouldn't let me take care of him. Like, I would try to make him food, he wouldn't eat it. He would just go out all the time on Rainy Street, just sit in his wheelchair, go to the bar across the street.
And people started to love him too. So I'm sure it was probably kind of like,
yeah, people
almost dangerous for him to go out because, you know, like
he never got into any. Well,
not. I don't mean in like.
There's one time a guy pulled a gun on him.
Wait, what?
This was before me. This is when he lived in L.A. He was talking shit to somebody from his balcony, and the guy pulled out a fucking gun. He's like, "What are you gonna do?" What are you gonna do? Like, yeah, there's a video out there of him talking shit to this guy who's flashing a gun at him. He's like in a wheelchair, and the guy's flashing a fucking gun at him.
What a loser, dude.
But Michael
Flashing
never gave
gun
a
in
fuck.
him.
Like, he talked shit to everybody. He would just out of the blue.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and I was always with him, like, dude, you're gonna get me killed one of these days. Like, me having to
well,
because
especially if you're like you're a loyal guy, so you're like, if I get pushed like far enough, like I'm gonna fucking snap. And he's out here, he's like, pussy. Like,
yeah.
Sorry,
Well, he was so much fun too, dude. Like, I remember at the Comedy Store, right? This is when I just started working on Kill Tony, and William was not sober. William was still Belly William and Cocaine William.
Yeah.
I'd become friends with him. I'd spend a few nights at his place, and we would just do cocaine all night and like talk, and it was the most fulfilling thing to talk to somebody. I always like, oh my God, it's William Montgomery.
Yeah, that's how I feel when I talk to you, honestly.
I'm flattered.
Level, you know?
I'm flattered.
Because I when I moved here, I knew who you were, and you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I know you're always like, that's crazy to me, but it's like, dude, Kill Tony was huge, and
right.
They would be like, Zac fucking Bogus is, running the show, and they would cut to you like running around in the crowd. Like, I knew who you were, and I would go to Kill Tony, so I would see you, and I was like, that's why when we linked up a couple months ago, like, I was like, Zac fucking Bogus, dude. Like,
dude, I'm just.
So I get what you're saying. Like, you're like William Montgomery. Dude?
I know. Recently, I've been actively withdrawing from that part of my life just because I'm trying to like figure out myself from a different angle. I'm trying to be better. I go through chapters in my life where I like, thank God I'm not that anymore. You know?
Self-assessment and
yeah, just improving. And I wasn't the best person when I was going through it. I did some things that like I look at and I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? Maybe I wasn't ready for certain responsibilities. Maybe I just needed to learn some things. Like, now I look back at that part in time, like I think about the comedy I was doing. I was thinking about my position, my job, how I wasn't necessarily ready for it because I made a lot of mistakes. I made so many embarrassing mistakes. There's
you mean just like while you learned how to be in that industry? Yeah. Like, I would party all the time. I was super confident because I was like, fake it till you make it. I gotta be like. Well, that's all you knew. You're like, Tony I got this opportunity, and yeah. That's what Tony taught me, and Tony taught me a lot, but a lot of it was like fucking blind belief in yourself. So I was all about it, and I was doing coke constantly. One night, which is not good. No, it's not. Don't do it. Like, honestly, you can do it, and you're like, wow, why doesn't everybody do this all the time? And then you're gonna do it again, and you're gonna do it again, and then all of a sudden, when you don't have it, you're like, what do I do? Yeah. That sounds like a that spiral. Being said, I'm gonna be honest, I did coke 2 days ago, and I still got the sniffles from it. I'm not on coke right now. I just did a bunch of caffeine. Yeah, the coke thing is like, I mean, you know how people talk about like in the 80s, like, I don't think it's the same drug as it used to be. It's still the same drug, it's not worth it to me. It's stepped on more now. Well, that's what I mean is like, because where I'm from in Iowa, like cocaine isn't really a thing up there. So like, I'm not very familiar with coke, but when I moved here, like, coke is a big thing here. So I had to kind of like, I learned a lot about how it is. I used to sell it. I sold it out here. I sold it last year. I sold it for an entire year. I don't care. I'm not going to get in trouble because I tested all of my stuff. All of my stuff was clean. So I know nobody's going to be like, oh, that's the guy who sold me bad drugs. I can tell you by name the ones who are selling bad drugs. Not me. I don't sell drugs anymore, but just I was selling drugs. Email us and we'll get you. I'll tell you who to stay away from. Yeah, we got your back here. But don't ask me for drugs because I'm sober now. Well, most of the time. We're podcast sober, you know. Yeah, well, we might vape, sober. We might, have a couple whiskeys. Hard drugs most of the time. Yeah, well, but that's a good thing, man, because. I'm fortunate that I always liked psychedelics. I always liked. Have you ever been suicidal? I'm sorry to switch. No, I mean, I don't want to say no as in like I'm not saying no to that question, but no, it's fine to switch to that because I mean, dude, I've been through a lot in my life and so has a lot of people and my connection with suicidal like thoughts, people call it suicidal ideation, is like I get it. I totally get it. And, I've been in moments where it's almost like a weird response your body has to constant trauma is like your body almost is like, oh, well, if things are that bad, then this seems like the option.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes people will, it's like they don't want it mentally, but their own body will be like pushing them to be like, well, the response that we have to this is like, this is the answer. And so it's like my only association with it outside of like people around me who have done that to themselves, which is always terrible, is like, yeah, I get it, man. I've been in some dark places for sure, but it's something that it's hard to talk about to other people because you never want to like offend somebody, or you know what I mean, or like because there's some people who have no idea about it, and then there's some people who you're like, whether you're on this end or this end of that spectrum, you're like, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
And so
I don't need to sugarcoat anything. I honestly, I'm the perfect person as a comedian who has been suicidal throughout his entire life. I can tell you, if you're suicidal or you have been suicidal at any point in your life, even though you think you've gotten better, if you start to get addicted to cocaine, everything that you thought you learned goes out the window.
What do you mean, like, thought you learned? Like about yourself, or about like...
Yeah, all that personal growth, right? Like for me, and I'm speaking from a personal point of view, I grew up, I became suicidal as soon as I hit puberty, like 12 years old. So I'd been in and out of psych wards for like suicide attempts, for cutting myself, things like that. I was a miserable...
At 12?
Starting at 12.
Damn.
And then until I was 23. That was a lot. I mean, I'd made probably, I think in total, 9 trips to the psych ward. The longest being 3 months.
How old are you now?
29.
Okay. I'm 29.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we were the same age.
Yeah. So, and that was throughout my entire, because I had a really fucked up like family tree. Things are crazy. And I didn't know who was, you know, my whole perspective on the world was fucked up. So I grew up with just constant self-loathing. I was always suicidal.
Man.
I didn't break it. Like it translated as an adult into relationships as being super codependent. So all the relationships, when they ended, it was like, I got to kill myself now.
Jesus.
That's a horrible way to be.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that stopped when I was 23. And then relationships, I grew, and I didn't collapse at the end of every relationship. But when I started doing cocaine again, everything went out the window, right back to that feeling. I'll be honest with you, 6 months ago, I tried to kill myself. I failed.
Man.
I fell 15 feet, woke up in a psych ward.
Brother.
Cocaine. Don't be sorry, man. Look at me right now. Like I'm fucking.
You look great right now.
I'm on so many
but...
antidepressants. It's amazing. No, honestly, like I'm doing actually a lot better. I'm doing so much better. I know that like that constant use of cocaine, knowing me, my mental health, like not an option. So, warning to whoever, if you have mental health problems, just don't do cocaine.
Yeah,
just don't do it.
Stick to psychedelics,
or
man.
take a caffeine pill. I take caffeine pills. Drink Monster, dude.
Starbucks or marijuana, you know?
Yeah, well, both, dude. Honestly, both.
Or exercise, you know?
Exercise.
David Goggins looks pretty fucking
exercise
happy.
is super important, but it's not always possible.
No, for real.
It's super important, sure.
I'm really sorry that you went through that, man.
No, don't be sorry about it, dude.
No, I know. I just mean I'm sorry to, like, you know, I don't know what else to say other than, like, I feel you and I'm here for you.
That's the thing with, like, I appreciate that. High highs, right? You have low lows. I've had a lot of high highs in my life. I lived on the beach in Malibu for free for a year and a half with this girl that I was dating. That's crazy. I used to be homeless. Yeah. So I went from that to that. And I was the producer, the main producer of my favorite podcast, Dream Come True. And then I'm like, you know, it goes from up and down. Like, that's the thing. I think a lot of comedians also can relate to that, where there's like the dramatic highs and the dramatic lows. You know, you can bomb or you can kill it, and the feeling is completely opposite.
Yeah, and it's strange. It's like to kill, like to go out and fucking. I always bring up Joe Rogan. I know everybody listening hates
Well, it's
it,
the
but
most relatable.
yeah,
comedian.
I'm sorry, guys. We live in Austin, and he's also huge anyway. So,
Right.
but
I mean, he's white. He's
always,
why we're all here.
Yeah, and he is, man. I always say it. It's like I
Tony
was living
wouldn't
in
have moved
Chicago.
out here if it wasn't for him.
Well, all that aside, even like you following the to produce the Kill Tony podcast, bringing Michael Lehrer, like all that, you moving here, me moving here. I was in Chicago and I heard him on his podcast say like, if you want to do comedy, move to Austin, just trust me. And I was like, dude, he just got like a huge Spotify deal. He's, you know what I mean? I was like, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
Like I was like, if he says that, he's not fucking making it up. It means he's gonna put everything he has into making this city like a comedy city. So I took the risk, dude. It's really sad, but like my aunt, who was my guardian at the time, who like I loved like so fucking much, she passed away. And it was almost like because she passed away, like I used to take care. I lived in Chicago at the time and she lived in Iowa, but it was like 3 hours. So I would take care of her as best as I could when I could. But when she passed away, it was like now I feel like I can actually take the step to move across the
Next
fucking country.
chapter.
Because it was like I always wanted to do something like that, but I never could because it was like I felt like I was abandoning her.
Sure.
And so it was like, it was I lost both my parents prior to that, and her dying was like the saddest I ever felt. It was like,
Was it the last chain of command in terms of people who raised you?
Not specifically, but 3 like main ones. Yeah, because like my parents divorced when I was young, and so she was my mom's sister, and so she was around a lot after they divorced. You know, like I would sometimes joke, like she would joke like how she's like my dad jokingly. You know, like she would joke about like just like be fulfilling that role, like, oh son, you know, like, or, yeah, I don't know, like
she had to play both parts.
She was around for sure. It was fucked up. Like divorce always sucks, you know.
Sure.
And like the sister of your dad's ex-wife is probably gonna take her side always.
Of course.
Of course. So it sucked, but like when she passed away, it was like, damn, like this is like I still have, my grandma is like the matriarch of the family, and I still have uncles and cousins, and all my siblings, thank God, like I've never lost a sibling. I love them to death. But it's just like that was like I can finally feel like I'm not like letting anybody down, because my siblings hate that I left. They hate that I moved across the country, but it's like I can finally be like I'm gonna go try. You know?
And this is the first big change of everything for you?
No, it was like because I lived in Chicago, and that was 3 hours from home, and it's only 3 hours, but people really don't visit.
When did you move?
I moved here from Chicago right around when you did, but I lived in Colorado for a little bit when I was about like 19. And then I lived back home. So I was home for like 20 some years of my life. But then I lived in Chicago for like 3, almost 4 years.
See, but that's the thing. That's a privilege that you don't really even see, that I saw after a few changes in my life. When you move to a different city and you set up a whole new life, a whole new set of friends, you're recreating yourself. It's another chapter. And it's weird when you have that past chapter, because you have what they remember from you, and now you're different. These people know you for who you are now. And then the next chapter, you move to another city, and it's now, Garrett .3.
Well, it's that, but it's also, it shapes you having to reestablish yourself that many times.
And it's a privilege, because now
it's a privilege,
but
it's also like putting yourself through struggle. Because you know what I mean? If you root up in a city, you've been in there like 3 years, like me in Austin right now, it's like I have friends, I have family, not like literal family, but like I have people here.
Yeah.
If shit hit the fan, there's a couple people I could call.
Right.
And I know places, I know restaurants, like I'm here. But if I were to move,
you also have that in Chicago now too.
Well, exactly. And so that's what I'm saying is like if you like it sucks uprooting and moving so far away from where and having to re-know. But I agree.
Because you get to change. If you change in front of the same people, they think you're weird for acting different.
And they remember who you were.
Right.
And they can judge you off of like, well, he's changed. And it's like, well, maybe it's for the better that I've changed.
Move to a new city.
It's like moving to a new job. It's like when you get a new job, you're like, well,
better.
None of these people know me.
Right.
So now I can not reinvent yourself, but like I can paint the picture of who I want them to see me as.
I can not make the mistakes that I've made in the past and also not be blamed for them now.
Yeah.
That's something that I've always looked, because I've moved a lot my entire life. Like, and I think I've grown so much because of that, being able to like, oh, okay, well, these people don't remember when I did this. I can be a new person here. Yeah. Make new friends, and then you move again and you're like, oh, all the shitty things I did here, I can kind of pretend like they didn't happen and grow.
Well, because everybody makes mistakes, man. And like, so it sucks when you're, plagued by one of your past mistakes. And so it's not that you're like running away when you put yourself in a new situation.
It's not running away. It's saving yourself.
It's like a little kid. It's like if you fucking fall and break your arm at 8, when you're 22, I'm not going to be like, you remember when you broke your arm, you fucking idiot? Right. You remember when you fell on the playground, you dumb idiot 8-year-old? It's like, I'm 22, man. Yeah, like, so it's like, that's a part of life is growing. And I think that it's something I've always lived by is when you're uncomfortable, you grow the most. If you're comfortable, you're not going to grow at all.
Absolutely.
It's like lifting weights. It's like if I start to struggle and like it hurts and I can't do one more, it's like that's when you get muscle growth. Yeah. But if you're like, I'll just do 6 reps because that's when it starts to hurt, it's like you're never going to grow muscle. Yeah. And so that's why
I love when people break up with me. It's sort of a kink now. I love that pain.
You're a masochist, bro.
Everything's fine.
I don't know, man. I'm having a great time. I don't know if you want to end it shortly. I feel like I'd be down to. I gotta piss really bad, so
yeah, go piss. I'm chilling, dude. I'm enjoying this conversation.
Yeah, or we can fucking take a break and smoke a joint or something. I don't care.
Sure.
But I really gotta pee.
I should probably pee too. I feel like I've drank a lot.